It used to be found at the XT level, and now it has trickled down to Dior and SLX as well. You can see it very clearly that there is some extra spice right here. On Chinese domestic brake brands, very few actually do this, but Frogwake has now brought it out at a very competitive price. So the larger reservoir, the larger piston diameter and stroke, and this crash-resistant brake lever blade are the three core feature upgrades of the FPRO. Let's take a look at some other details. This entire lever blade has also been redesigned. It's different from the previous FE4. The overall upgrade mainly comes from small adjustments to the width here, and a more sculpted, better-looking contour. Also, to better suit one-finger braking at the contact area, it has been narrowed slightly, so it feels more agile when you pull with one finger. On the earlier FV4 lever, some users would argue that when adjusting these two gold knobs, the screws felt too tight or there wasn't much feedback, even though they functioned well. There was no audible click or any detent feel, so you could not really tell how much you had turned it, which made it a bit less premium. The FPRO immediately addressed this issue with a very clever change. When I turn the free-stroke adjustment knob, I can really feel it inside. There is a click every quarter I turn. Each click is one detent, making the feedback extremely clear and also adding a bit of premium feeling. I know exactly how far I've turned it, because each detent is a quarter. 2 clicks means half a turn, and 4 clicks means 1 full turn. And the reach adjustment works the same way. The detents are also very clear. Again, it's 1 detent every quarter turn. Let's try the gold version. The detents are very clear here too. It's just that the sound from the free-stroke adjustment knob is much more pronounced than the reach adjustment knob. So how do we achieve this? The structure is actually quite simple. There's a very subtle detail here. If we remove this screw, we can see that around the threaded section, there are 4 grooves cut into each full rotation. And inside here, there is a steel ball, which is spring-loaded. So every time we turn it by a quarter, the ball drops into one of these grooves, which gives you a positive indexing effect. Once it reaches that position, the ball presses against the screw, so it won't loosen any further on its own. And when you want to turn it again, the force you apply has to overcome the spring force behind the ball. So on one hand, it creates something like damping, and on the other hand, it gives you a much clearer tactile feeling. These two subtle upgrades make a very noticeable difference to the overall quality and user experience of the brake lever. Then, in terms of weight reduction, you can also see that the center section here has been skeletonized, which cannot be spotted on the previous generation. There's also some material removed at the bottom for weight savings. To preserve strength, it's not fully cut through, but uses a recessed, pocketed cutout. So we've covered the major upgrade highlights of the FPRO: a larger reservoir, a brand new sealed cylinder cap, and the internal bladder with a more durable design, which together enable a longer stroke, larger diameter piston that can push more oil with each stroke. That allows to support 2 and 4 piston calipers and even 6 or 8 piston equivalents. At the same time, there are many smaller detail upgrades such as redesigned lever blade, the bearing-guided straight push piston, and the free-stroke adjustment and reach adjustment knobs, which have noticeably better detail execution and feel. This lever uses the BH59 olive bar, which is compatible with the 5mm brake hose. So in practical terms, it fits the vast majority of brakes on the market, regardless of the number of the piston in the caliper, as long as it is a mineral oil system. We've also made the scales option more flexible by setting the brake lever by itself, so you can do more creative hybrids and mixed builds to improve overall riding experience. So why should we swap only the brake lever? Once you look at the bike like this, it becomes obvious. Take a Saron for example. The cable routing is very complicated. If I can upgrade only the brake lever and still get a 20% to 40% performance gain, that saves both money and hassle. And on a full suspension bike with internal routing like this, if I'm just an individual rider and all I need to do is just replace the brake lever, yet I still get a major leap in performance, why wouldn't I do that? I mean, I can spend less money and still get better performance without all the extra trouble rerouting the cable. Coming closer and look at the stock brake caliper on the Saron. I mean, it's actually pretty decent. It's a one-piece forged aluminum caliper which is thick and robust and looks a bit like the Magura MT7. Some riders only switch to better brake pads to get better performance, and they may find replacing the entire brake set a lot of work. Once getting past the caliper, you'll have to remove the battery, the cover panels, the upper guard, then route the hose all the way through, and only after that can you replace the brake lever. But if I only replace this brake lever and build up the performance by 20 to 40%, that will be a very simple and cost-effective solution. All I need to do is just cut off 2 cm from the hose, then fit in a new barb and olive to make sure it can be installed on this new brake lever. For those with better mechanical skills, they don't even need to re-bleed the system to make it work. Then let's take a look at the fully internally routed full suspension bike like this, or a knee bike. It's also a lot of work if you want to replace the entire hose. For many users, that's a very troublesome job, so we suggest to only swap in the brake lever to get a decent increase in braking performance. Currently, this particular bike is running SRAM brakes, which use dot fluid. In this case, there's no workaround. You have to replace the whole brake set. But if your bike is using Shimano brakes or any other mineral oil system, then all you need to do is replace the brake lever if you want the simplest and the most straightforward way to improve braking performance. Let me show you with the Shimano brake on this full suspension bike here. It's got a 4-piston caliper on the rear. If you've already switched to better brake pads, you may already have gained some performance. The hose routes internally from here, and for most entry-level riders, it's quite a hassle to replace the hose. But on a stock bike at this point, there's usually some extra hose length left for at least 4 to 5 centimeters. So you can just cut it off by about 2 centimeters, pressing a new barb and olive, and then you can use this new FPRO brake lever, bringing stronger performance, greater fluid displacement, and better durability as well. This is the most cost-effective way to modify your setup, but if you have enough budget and time, then of course I would recommend replacing both the caliper and the lever. So next, I'll show you how to install it. Before you upgrade to the FPRO brake lever, if your bike is still in stock configuration, then in most cases, the brake lever and the shifter will share the same shifter clamp, which is either a Shimano or SRAM standard. Both of these bikes are set up like that. If you choose to upgrade to the FPRO, then you'll need to buy another shifter mount or choose a separate clamp for the shifter. This is an issue you cannot avoid because on stock bikes, manufacturers do this to save costs and also to make it cleaner and tidier on the handlebar. So when you decide to upgrade the brakes, make sure you budget for it. Based on both pricing and what the market feedback looks like, it's actually hard to find a separate shifter clamp by itself, so it suggests that you just replace the shifter directly. Most mountain bikes nowadays use 12-speed drivetrains, and the shifter itself is not expensive, so in most cases, we'll recommend replacing the whole shifter before upgrading to the FRPRO brake.